Welcome to Commerce Connect, the official podcast of the City of Commerce, Texas. Here, we bring you the stories, updates, and conversations that matter most to our community.
Welcome back. Thank you for joining us again for another episode of Commerce Connects. Hopefully you find these episodes informational, educational, enlightening, sometimes maybe humorous. My dad jokes sneak through every once in a while. On that note, most people are shocked when they find out I'm not a good electrician. As we continue this series on the proposed budget for fiscal year 2026, that is the budget year that starts October 1 of 2025 and goes 12 months through the end of September in 2026. And so each year we look at the services that we provide to you, the citizens and taxpayers of our community, and we budget and plan what work we're going to do, what effort we're going to put into improving the level of service that we provide to you, what are the costs of those services going to be, and then we propose a budget that is published and in front of the community, and you've been given opportunities to review and give feedback to the elected officials or to us as city staff. In the last episode, we took a look at a very high level of the entire proposed budget for the general fund and the public utility fund. And so a little over $16 million of expenditure, a little over $8 million on the general fund side, and about $8 million on the public utility side. And then we talked a little bit about where the revenues come from to support each of those different functions, general fund and public utilities. And we briefly talked at the end about the changes in the proposed tax rate for our community. In this episode, I want to take a few minutes and dig a little bit into the weeds of how a property tax rate is set, what's the process that we go through as a city to determine what that tax rate is going to be, hopefully help you understand the process. We have questions and we've been doing this our entire career, so we know it can be a little confusing as to what that process entails. As we talk about the tax rate, I want to start by looking at the services that property tax supports. And so within the general fund, we saw in the last episode that we look at public safety, public infrastructure, public health or quality of life, and then we have administrative overhead. We have to pay the light bill and the gas bill and insurance and all the other overhead that takes place. And so within those general fund services, they're primarily supported by taxes, franchise tax, sales tax, and the biggest being property tax. And so in the last episode, we talked a little bit about what those amounts are, but we showed you that just the cost of public safety, police, fire, animal control, municipal court, emergency management, and our community, the proposed budget is about $4.7 million in expenditures. That's about 55% of our general fund budget is on public safety. And the corresponding property tax revenue that we generate is about $3.9 million of tax revenue. And so the property taxes we receive from our community doesn't even cover 100% of the cost of public safety, which is the fundamental first responsibility of a local government, is keeping that community safe. And so the property taxes that you pay, either through your ownership of property or through your rent of existing property, is basically used to provide public safety, police, fire, emergency management, dispatch services, municipal court, those core public safety functions. The rest of the cost of public safety comes from sales tax revenue, and so between property tax and sales tax, we are able to provide that fundamental service of public safety to our community. And so those are the services that you receive for the taxes that you pay, and we hope that we do that in an efficient and effective manner so that you find value in what you're paying for. Again, public safety is about 55% of the budget and is exceeding the amount of property tax that we receive. So how are tax rates calculated? Well, it's actually three different parts of that formula that impact you as a homeowner, you as a property tax payor in this community. The first piece is the appraisal or the value of your property. The second is the tax rate that is used to apply towards that value. And if you take the value times the tax rate, then it equals the tax revenue or the bill that you receive when it's time to pay for your taxes. And so in that three-part equation, the city elected officials only control one piece of that formula. The first piece, the appraisal or the value, is done by the Hunt County Appraisal District. Your elected officials, your city staff are not involved in that appraisal process at any stage of the process. State law forbids us from getting involved in the appraisal process. And so what the value is of your home, if you agree or disagree, if you don't like the value that's been assigned to your home or your property, the City of Commerce has nothing to do with the appraisal value. All of those conversations happen with the Hunt County Appraisal District, and there's a process as defined by state law that allows you to have a say and participate in that process. Then the appraisal district gives us what the values are that have been determined through their appraisal process, and we take and adopt an expense budget. The services that we provide to this community, public safety, public infrastructure, public health and quality of life, and administrative overhead, what is the cost of those services, and how do we distribute the cost to the property owners and the people within the community that benefit from those services. And for the property tax that is levied in our community, we then establish a tax rate that is necessary to generate the revenue we need to have a balanced budget. And so we have the cost of these services. We've got all other forms of revenue that we can come up with, and what is left after all of our other revenues, after charges, after fees, after fines, after sales tax, franchise tax, after all of those revenues come in, the gap that's left in expenditures, that is what we have to fill with property tax. And so the council and the elected officials will adopt the tax rate, and that is the part that they can control. And so we look at the valuation of our community, and so you're going to begin to see a series of pie charts. Hopefully will tell a story that you can understand. But the first chart we have looks at all of the property within the City of Commerce and all of the accounts for those property that are listed, individual unique pieces of property or types of property accounts that the appraisal district considers. And right at 50% of the property within our community is residential in nature. And so the number of accounts that the appraisal district will evaluate, appraise, and assign a value to, about 50% is residential. And so as we look at who are the accounts that are getting appraised, the majority is residential in nature. If you take that same look at our community and you look at the number of acres that are involved, residential customers are less than 25% of the total acreage. So the number of accounts are mostly residential. The total acreage, actually, the vast majority of acreage in our community, the land is used as an agricultural use. And so we continue to be predominantly an agricultural town. But the next biggest category beyond that is the state of Texas and the university and the tax-exempt property that exists within our community. And so almost 75% of the acreage within our community is agricultural space or tax-exempt state of Texas space. Each year, the appraisal district gives us a report of the new development, the new homes that were constructed, the new businesses that were constructed. What's the new value of development that took place within our community? It wasn't here last year, it is here now, the new value that has been added to our community. About 75% of the new value that was added into our community was residential development. So we are seeing strong growth in people building homes, improving homes, making additions to homes. So residential development within our community is strong. 75% of the added value of our community came from residential development. The rest was commercial. So we're still seeing some business and commercial growth as well. So it's encouraging to see that our community is growing. In the last episode, we talked about the guiding vision for our community. We want Commerce to be a vibrant, self-sustaining community that has the ability to live and grow and prosper on its own. And so one of the signs of a healthy, vibrant, growing community is new development. New homes are being built, new businesses are being opened, and we're seeing that in the community commerce. And so it's a good sign moving forward into the years to come. Once you've looked at the number of accounts within the community and you look at the total acreage within the community and how is that all spread around, you look at the new development. Where is new development happening? Again, residential and commercial. All of that then has a value assigned. So from the appraisal district's point of view, they look at all of that economic activity, all of the land and how it's used, and they assign a value based on their appraisal process. You may agree with their process, you may disagree with your process. We'll leave it to you to have those conversations with the appraisal district. But when they complete their process, they give us a report that says, here is the appraised value of all the property within the city limits of the City of Commerce. And for our current value that we use to build this budget, we've got a total value of about $1.6 billion. That is the value of all of the land and all the property and how it's used within the City of Commerce. Within that $1.6 billion of value, 55% is owned by the state of Texas and is tax exempt and comes off of the value. In a typical community, you'll have the total value, in our case $1.6 billion, and then you'll have the revenue needed to make sure the budget is balanced. And for our community, that's $3.9 million of revenue we've got to generate to balance the budget so that we can provide a quality, efficient, effective level of service to you as the community. And so you would take that $3.9 million of revenue and you would apply it across the entire value of the community of $1.6 billion. And so if you can imagine, you take $3.9 million of needed revenue, divided into $1.6 billion of appraised value, and it will come up with a tax rate that you use, and you charge that tax rate against those properties that benefit from the service, and then you get a tax bill. Again, appraised value times tax rate equals the bill you get once a year from Hunt County Tax Office. We've got $1.6 billion of value and we need $3.9 million of revenue. That should work out very favorably for the taxpayers in our community, except that you bring 55% of that off the table as being tax exempt. And so within the taxable value, that's the portions of our community that pay a property tax that can be used to generate that revenue, then that's roughly $690 million. So if we've got $1.6 billion of revenue, $1 billion is off the table and can't be used. We've got $690 million, and the bulk of that value is on the residential side. So if we have to generate $3.9 million of revenue to cover the cost of these services, unfortunately in our community, 55% of that revenue is going to fall to the land that's residential use within our community. And so we're very mindful of that and very aware of the impact that our budget has on residents. So each year, the appraisal district gives you the appraised value, and that is a number that's given to us. We don't have any say in what that looks like. Then the state of Texas gives us part of the second number. Again, appraised value, tax rate, those times each other gives you the tax levy and what your tax bill is. For the second portion, or the tax rate, the state of Texas gives us the biggest part of that tax rate number, and that's what they call the no new revenue rate. And so each year the state of Texas gives us the no new revenue rate, and the idea is what tax rate this year generates the same revenue you got last year. So if we want this year's tax levy to be same as last year's tax levy, they give you the no new revenue rate. And if the taxing entity adopts that no new revenue rate, the assumption is that they will generate the same revenue that they did in last year's budget. And the state calculates that, gives us that number. And so the appraised value for our community in the fiscal 26 period actually goes down from the prior year. Last year's appraised value and last year's tax rate, we came in at about 0.79. 79 cents per $100 evaluation was the City of Commerce tax rate last year. The appraisal district says that the value of our community actually went down compared to last year, and so the no new revenue rate goes up to 82 cents. So the tax rate from 79 cents to 82 cents, the state of Texas calculates and gives that to us and says that's your no new revenue rate. And then the city council has to evaluate, does that rate generate enough money to balance the budget? So again, we've got the general fund services of public safety, public infrastructure, public health and quality of life, and then a portion of the overhead administrative services. And we've got all the revenue that comes in from those activities, and what's left, that gap has to be covered by property taxes. And so if we adopt the no new revenue rate and we get the same tax revenue that we got from last year, does that balance the budget? And if it doesn't, we either have to cut services, find other revenue, or adjust the tax rate. And so in our budget adoption process, we got through the point where we realized we had about a $3.9 million gap in order to provide the services to our community at the same level or a higher level of service than we did last year. And that no new revenue rate of 82 cents did not generate the $3.9 million necessary to cover that gap. And so the question for the city council was, do we cut services? Do we provide a lower quantity of service to our community, or do we provide a lower quality of service to our community so that we fit within that no new revenue rate and balance the budget? Or do they consider a tax rate that provides the revenue necessary to keep the level of service or improve the level of service? And so our council is proposing a budget of 83 cents per $100 evaluation instead of the 82 cents that is the no new revenue rate. And so our city council is proposing a 1 cent tax rate over the no new revenue rate that was given to us by the state of Texas. And so what that is equivalent to is about $85,000 of additional revenue. That 1 cent tax rate is going to generate about $85,000 of new revenue compared to last year's levy. And so the level of service that we provide through public safety, public infrastructure, public health and quality of life, we are keeping or maintaining or improving the level of service with a tax rate increase that will generate about $85,000 of new revenue according to the state of Texas calculations. What does that mean for you as a property tax owner? Well, for every $100,000 of valuation in your property, so your property may be worth more than $100,000, but for every $100,000 of value in your property, this new tax rate is going to add about $2.64 a month to your property tax bill. So for a total year tax bill, your total city tax bill is going to go up $31.69 for every $100,000 of value in your property. So if your property is valued less than $100,000, your tax bill from the City of Commerce is going to go up less than $31 a month. The median household, the median residential structure in our community, and again remember, 55% of our taxable value is residential structures, and the median value of those homes is $184,000. That's the median value of a residential property in Commerce. And so for that average home, their tax bill is going to go up $58.41. That's $4.88 a month. And so with us maintaining the level of service or improving the level of service that we provide to this community in this budget, the cost is going up the equivalent of a cup of coffee each month, depending on where you buy your coffee from. But if your home is $200,000, $300,000, or $400,000, then obviously that rate will adjust accordingly. But we try to make sure and focus on the average property or lower in value, because we know most of our community is at a fixed income or at a reduced socioeconomic level. And so we try to limit the impact of the services we provide on those residents. And so included within this budget, and so again, if you use the calculations provided by the state of Texas, we're getting $85,000 of additional tax revenue when compared to the prior year's formulas. What are you getting for that $85,000? For you as a taxpayer, if you have the property that is the median value of $4.88 per month, what are you getting for that $4.88 that is better than what you had last year? Are we improving the level of service if we're increasing the cost of the level of service? That's how you determine whether there's value here. If we increase the cost of the service, but we don't make the service better, then there's no value there. Well, within the budget that's being proposed, within public safety, $66,000 a year in this budget that's paying for a new fire engine. So the fire department, when they respond to calls for service, there's equipment that they use, and the average fire truck is going to last 10 to 15 years. And at the end of its lifespan, it has to be replaced. And so we had a engine 3 that was the end of its useful life, and so it was needed to be replaced so that they can continue to sustainably and reliably respond when you call 911. Well, that $66,000 a year is paying for that new fire truck and the equipment that goes on that fire truck. We have a new public safety radio system for all police, fire, and dispatch. And so the radio system that we were using to communicate to each other, to communicate to other communities and agencies so that we can provide the highest level of public safety response. The old system that we had was beginning to fail. It had reached the age where you couldn't find parts for it anymore. And so the brand new radio system allows us to continue to communicate with all the agencies around us and actually improves that communication with more services and more functionality for your first responders. That's $70,000 a year that we're paying for that new radio system. And so $66,000 for a fire truck, $70,000 for an entire radio system, but yet we're asking for $85,000 of additional revenue from the community. Still within public safety, we've got a forensics unit that allows our investigators to do more work when it comes to solving crime for victims in our community, and that forensics unit comes at a cost of $12,500 a year. So we've got investigators that have skills that they didn't have before, and we've got investigators that have tools that they've never had before. So we're raising the level of service in public safety. That's $12,500 a year for that improved level of service. So we hope that you'll find value. Lastly, two things on the quality of life and public health side, general fund budget, is Parks and Recreation. The City of Commerce has not had a rec center to provide to this community in a long number of years. And so we've partnered with Commerce Independent School District and we have signed a lease to lease the old middle school gym to become the new city rec center. And so we're already providing recreational services to our community. This year, this summer, we had volleyball for the youth of our community that we haven't been able to offer ever. And so we're going to begin to see new services, new opportunities, new things that we can provide to the community because we have a recreation center in partnership with the Commerce Independent School District. That's $48,000 a year is the lease so that we can use that property. And so the school has been gracious to work with us there. And then a year ago, we got feedback from a lot of parents in our community that the condition of our baseball complex, the Eddie Moore Sports Complex, was very poor and it was very hard to have effective youth sports there. We have completely revamped the Eddie Moore Sports Complex. All 4 baseball fields will soon be completely renovated, improving the level of service and allowing us to host tournaments and have more activity in our community. And that's $37,000 a year that we're paying to maintain the new fields at a reliable standard. And so that's just a list of services, a short list of services that we've expanded or improved and what the cost is within this budget, and that benefits you, the community, makes us more of a vibrant, self-sustaining community where people want to live, work, and play. And we're asking the average residential property taxpayer to pay $4.88 a month. And so we hope that you'll find value. Nobody likes paying taxes, but what are you getting for the taxes that are being paid? And we hope that you'll agree that you're getting better services than what you've gotten before, or that you're getting more services than what you got before for a slightly higher price, $4.88 a month. And so that is the work that we're trying to do on this budget. We've got a couple more episodes. We'll give you one more episode coming up where we're going to talk specifically about the Public Utility Fund and look at what the costs are and the rates for service that are going to be changing for your public utilities, water, sewer, trash. We thank you for your time. God bless. God bless Commerce.
Thanks for tuning in to Commerce Connect. Together, we're building a community that's not only strong today, but ready for the future. Stay connected, stay informed, and as always, let's work together to build a better Commerce.